trying, I guess, kind of like what you're doing with me now.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Now, when you say that, let's say you're being the bad guy, what is it that actually makes you the bad guy?
So then if I see them again, then it's like, I don't know how to be or what to do. Or
Yeah.
that's where it comes for me to like, that I feel rejected.
Hi everyone, and in today's episode of Solutions to Complex Human Behaviors with Samppa, we are having a topic about disagreements, selfishness, and looking into other people's perspective. And my name is Anastasia Kontinen, and I have a psychology enthusiast, Samuel, with me.
How's it going? Hayes. What's that? Hayes. What? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
We need to say that we're not professionals, right?
Yeah.
So none of us are professionals, we're just doing it out of curiosity, and we're hoping that we can help you to broaden your perspective on the psychology. And in today's letter, participant is talking about the problem of selfishness. And I'm gonna read the letter now. Quote, my problem is that I start to think very selfishly, which I guess is human, but I do have some relationships that have gone bad that I wish would be different. But it has been easier to stick with my own perspective and to be okay with my hurt feelings rather than finding their perspective and try to accept them and keep them as my friends. And sometimes, even if I manage to get to the point that I want to understand the other person's view, I lack the tools to ask the questions right way and right time. So, any thoughts?
I was just about to ask, any thoughts you have?
Yeah. Well, first thought which came to my mind and which I found to be very relevant is the importance to understand the tolerance and what does it mean. The real tolerance is when you recognize and respect other people's beliefs and practices without sharing them.
What are the feelings connected to, let's say, you come into a disagreement with somebody? Well, how do you feel? What is it that sparks you to act in a selfish way? If we talk about like really extreme cases of narcissism, like narcissistic personality disorder, it seems that anyone with that kind of a disorder, they have an incredibly difficult time in admitting that they're being selfish. They always see everyone else being selfish and self-driven and so forth. Obviously, you don't need to have a disorder of such to be somewhat narcissistic. Let's say this almost goes into more like an evolutionary thing, where it's like we humans we have this tendency of needing to survive, and in history, I suppose, we've had limited amount of resources, so you need to use your resources well. Let's say hunter-gatherers, when they find an abundance of, let's say, food, they want to gather as much of it as they can, or just eat as much as they can, to be able to survive, because they might not be able to get it for a long time. And I sometimes think we have these kind of tendencies where we fear that if I'm not going to get what I want right now, I'm not going to survive. Obviously, we understand that in today's society, this is not necessarily true anymore. But the feeling exists, and we impulsively kind of act on that feeling. And I feel like if there's, let's say somebody feels like if they don't get the attention or whatever emotional need they have, if they're not able to get it now, they feel like they're going to suffer because of it. And sometimes it turns to, or it may turn into thinking that if someone else gets something that I want, then it's away from me, so I need to take it, and so forth. But this is, I think, quite based on a fear of lack, a fear of not having enough, and if others have something, then it's not something that you can get. So that easily breeds selfish thinking.
I was also thinking, since we're talking about what kind of person our participant might be, I thought of this five big five personality traits, and one of them is agreeableness, and for example, one of them is a cooperation, like part of this agreeableness, and person who is very high on scale of cooperation usually dislike confrontation, and they are perfectly willing to compromise their own needs and their own desires in order to get along with others.
Yeah, like being disagreeable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I find myself being quite agreeable by nature. I've tried to learn to be more disagreeable because it's quite beneficial in some situations where you have to really stand up for yourself. And disagreements are normal.
It's important to have those disagreements with people, and in fact you can't even say that you're tolerant if you're agreeing with everyone, because, well, you can be tolerant only towards people who you disagree with.
Yeah, so true. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can be selfish by nature to a degree, and it doesn't mean that you're totally narcissistic. And sometimes there's good kind of selfishness as well, where you're taking care of yourself and not letting others walk over you. So that's good. But I think when it starts damaging relationships that you want to maintain, or when it starts constantly putting you in a place where you end up being alone because people don't want to deal with you because you're being selfish, then you might want to reconsider how you go about life and learning skills where you learn to see other people's perspectives, learn to understand how they might feel, and consider how I might do these things differently.
Some of the things which I would suggest, I guess, to research for the participant and anyone who is watching this video is, if you want to understand people better, you can look into different like personality types. Like there is MBTI, it's also commonly known as 16 personalities, and then there is Big Five, like ocean, and then there is this enneagram system where there's 9 types, and recently there has been developed a new 4 personality types: average, reserved, self-centered, and role model. Like and you can understand maybe better why people act certain way, and that's maybe why they are disagreeing. Sometimes you also need to question yourself, like, is what you believe is actually true, or maybe people actually have point. And one thing which came up in my research is one way how you can understand is think from the perspective of like science and pseudoscience. Like science usually disconfirms when tries to find the truth, and pseudoscience confirms. So basically meaning that when you have some idea or view on life or theory, you need to try to do everything to disconfirm it, like and not try to find all the reasons why it's true. Why would you even hold to it? Why spend your energy and have that belief? It's not worthy if it's not truth.
One of the things why we don't necessarily do that with our beliefs is the fact that it can be very uncomfortable. Something that's in our power is to try to become comfortable with the uncomfortable truths that we might have to come across. So I think that's one of the main reasons why we aren't tolerant, is because the other person's view or the possible truths or ideas that are being represented or presented to us clash with our beliefs so much that it hurts, because it challenges the way we've built our sense of reality, or like how we view our world view. Anastasia, why would you want to change your opinions on something?
Having an open mind that my beliefs might be wrong is bringing me closer to truth. I don't always trust my thoughts. Why would you?
I think I just generally value understanding. But if I'm really stuck to my opinions, I'll never find out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll never understand.
Thanks for sharing. maybe people with who the participant is having disagreements, they are trying to help her. And the thing is that sometimes readiness to help does not equal capacity of true assistance.
Mm.
We are all different and we want to be helped differently. Like some people would like to be listened to, and some people like want very concrete solutions, or maybe even like financial help or some like very practical help. Some people like help in a way of like positivity. Some people on the other hand like likes negativity, like they want to actually understand all the risks. Some people like more of physical contact as a help.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not sure if it's anyone's job to help unless help is being asked. Yeah, so maybe wanting to dive back into just the idea of selfishness a little bit. Sometimes when you, let's say you have something, when you own things, let's say you have a lot of money and things like that. I know this idea might be just kind of crazy, but when you have things, you allow those things to define you. You feel better about yourself. So in a way, you've attached your self value into your own self importance, or the possessions that you have, or and so forth. When your kind of identity is connected to that, then it's really difficult to let go of it as well, depending what it's connected to, because you feel like you not only lose the things that you want, but you only lose like you lose who you are as well.
Something becomes very desirable when it's not yours to have.
Yeah.
As soon as it's yours, you don't want it anymore. Sometimes I question myself, like, can one want what he or she already has?
I think so.
Can you?
I think it depends on how you frame it in your mind. Like, how you allow it to represent itself in your mind.
Also, adding to the topic of selfishness, it reminds me of how once I read the descriptions of hero and villain. So, hero is someone who sacrifices himself for a greater good, while villain is the one who sacrifices others for his own selfish desires. And these descriptions made me really ponder about my life, and am I being hero or villain in my own life?
Yeah, like I always try to avoid this kind of black and white thinking where it's like it's either or, because it rarely is. But it's good to think where it's like like if I am being selfish, am I being selfish in a way that actually does just damage? Like, does it damage relationships? Am I being malevolent with my selfishness? Am I willing to hurt? Like, am I really purposefully wanting to hurt other people? And that's kind of one of the reasons why I do it. Or am I doing it to maintain myself so that I can be mindful and helpful to other people?
It brings me to the point of what's more important, the intention or the impact?
That's a tough one. Be understanding of the other people, especially if you feel very threatened by that. But I think it takes mindfulness and an openness from both sides. In a way, I think we easily and it's easy to be pretty black and white about this, but I'm not sure if it's a good idea. This is life. Like, we are humans, and like we're bound to get things wrong, even though we have good intentions and so forth. But if you think about this, none of us really know what's really going on. We're all just trying certain things, and we fail, and let's just accept that, and then we just try to do a little bit better. But let's not expect perfection. Let's just try to be a little bit better all the time.
Yeah. So now we're going to be having a call with our participants to ask a few questions.
Awesome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much for participating. This has been an exciting thing. We've already had a pretty good conversation about the letter you sent.
We're planning to ask you a few questions. When people are disagreeing with you, are they trying to help you to change, or is it more like you're trying to help them to change?
From my side, is more of just like trying to understand their point of view, but then I feel like sometimes I like cross the line.
When you say crossing the line, can you clarify on that a little bit? What does that mean?
It's just like crossing the line in a way that like the other person is not comfortable with, but then not really being in the moment in a way that I would realize like when it's time to stop asking questions.
I was wondering, how easy is it for you to kind of connect with the other person's emotions in the moment?
In general, I can read people quite well, but then I think the problem comes when I want to understand or like have more knowledge. Trying, I guess, kind of like what you're doing with me now.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah, like I think I'm doing it friendly, but I don't know if they are taking it more like if I'm touching them or.
What one of the main things in the letter that you sent was just this idea of selfishness. What is the selfishness to you, and how does it affect your life in a negative way?
Like I start to overthink. So then like if I don't get the answers, and then it will either make the other person look very bad or like expecting the worst, or then I will make myself look very bad, which is not healthy either. But it's kind of like hard to stay neutral, I guess.
Does this selfishness manifest in these kind of specific social interactions, or does it span into other areas of your life?
More of like on the points that I want answers. Like that's where it comes very strongly.
You're asking those things, but people are not willing to give you the answers necessarily. But you want them. What happens? What is it that happens that's a problem?
Did I do something wrong, or
Mm.
is there something that I could have said better? It affects like on my emotions.
And maybe you really want them to have the same interest for you. Is that something that sounds right?
Yeah, that's more, but not quite.
Okay. I'm curious a little bit about, let's say if you're very eager to get to know people, but let's say they're not necessarily giving you as much as you would hope that they would be giving, let's say answers or or attention and so forth. How do you end up feeling in that moment?
Rejected.
Okay. And where it was interesting where you said that it kind of almost feels like it goes into this dynamic where either one is the bad guy. And how often do you feel like you end up being potentially the bad guy in those situations?
Yeah, I guess it's like it's easy to put the blame on someone. Usually I would like I don't like putting the weight that much on the other people, but then so I would more like put it on me, but then it makes it uncomfortable for me to face those people afterwards because then I have built up all these, like I have made myself to be the bad guy. So then if I see them again, then it's like, I don't know how to be or what to do. Or
Yeah. Now, when you say that, let's say you're being the bad guy, what is it that actually makes you the bad guy?
to cross that unseen line.
And you feel like it's these questions or this curiosity that you have is that makes people kind of separate or leave or things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I try to understand who are usually trying to leave.
Usually, I feel like the other people just kind of fade away. That's where it comes for me to like that I feel rejected. Then I'm not sure anymore how much I want to find their perspective.
How easy is it for you to accept that someone might not be willing to give you what you want them to give you?
I think it depends. Like most of the time, I can accept like that people do not want to answer me or like things like that. But I would like to have like respect enough like that their answer would be like, hey, you know what, like I don't want to talk about it, or I don't feel comfortable talking about this subject to you, or like just kind of like get something back. And then it like if I get something back, it's so much easier. But if it's kind of like I just get nothing, then those are the moments that makes it hard.
I do have a question on that. Why is it that you think it's your fault that it's gone like that? Why do you put yourself to be the one to blame, possibly?
Because I don't like blaming others. I
Because
always find excuses for other people why they act how they act. I'm very good at creating the patterns of understanding even when I don't understand. Finding like connecting the dots that I know about the other person, why they reacted or did something that they did. So then only person that I have left to blame is me.
mm, why wouldn't you allow the idea that maybe other people have uh, reasons that you might not necessarily know, but it might not always be because of you? And I guess it's easy when, especially when it comes to your relationship to someone else, and let's say they stop talking to you. I mean, of course, it's like really natural to consider like maybe there's something about me, like there's something about in our relationship, and I'm an aspect of it. So it's easy to think that there must be something. But I think it's so sometimes easy to personalize the challenge or the problem in a way. Like this must be because of something in me, because even though the reason might be somewhat outward in the relationship in itself, or maybe in life situations, have you ever gone to ask, like, did I make you feel uncomfortable, or do you feel uncomfortable about something? Is there something that went wrong? Have you ever asked someone like that?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, it wasn't about me.
Did that make you feel better?
Yeah, like it got that blame out of me and from the other person too. Like I didn't need to connect the dots.
Mm.
Like what's going on and why we are not talking or so on and so on.
So I noticed that relationships are very important for you, and you're trying to develop meaningful, like deep connections. Um, and it's curious for me, like that we're focusing so much on aspect of um, friendships related to asking questions. So why asking questions for you is so important?
Well, I think it just comes to clarity at times. I feel like when you ask questions, you get deeper connections with people.
I was just wondering, can it be that you feel that you need validation specifically by people answering your questions? Um, because sometimes maybe people are happy to do like other things with you, maybe like go hang out or do something fun, or I know, play board games. um, and that's how they show you that they want to be your friends. But maybe you feel that um, they want to be friends with you when they answer your questions. Is that correct, or is it not correct?
Nah, like I do like with my closest like friendships, like we do all kind of stuff.
But you seem to want to go deeper into understanding these individuals.
And that's where the problems usually come.
But let's say when you start, trying to ask questions, especially when you do it to try to connect with the other person, in a way, it's kind of an invitation for the other person to like, hey, I'm asking you to be all like a bigger part of my life. Not that it needs to be massive or something, but you are extending an invitation of like, I'm trying to create a stronger relationship with you. And I think that's sometimes where people do draw lines, where it's like, well, I'm not necessarily comfortable going further down this road with you, even though it's just friendship or things like that. Like, I think when it's like, when there's a potential romance, then people are a bit more careful with that because they're not necessarily always sure if that's what they want. But let's say even in friendship, I think people might be a little picky on how quickly and how easily they want to go down that road. So people might be naturally careful.
For me, asking all the time, like, how are you, and getting good. It
Mm.
just kills me.
It's a tricky. I think this is a really tricky thing to kind of figure out. Thanks for like answering these questions. It helps us understand this a lot better. But I think this is like in general a really tricky topic, where it's like creating relationships, and because people don't always want to tell you what's going on, uh, um, even when you ask,
Yeah.
then it's like you almost have to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing and just like kind of go with it. And at the same time, there's this aspect of like also looking at yourself, like, is there something I'm doing that's making other people uncomfortable, and what is it? But that's also a really difficult thing to do. So I'm feeling you. It's not very easy at all. Do you feel like there's a fear of rejection involved?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this would be another topic that we could even like talk about. I think it would be really good. Maybe our last segment of this video will be just talking about that. I don't know. When you try to figure this out for yourself, it's like maybe that considering that how to deal with that rejection, and maybe what to do to avoid that. Where does that rejection even come from? It's a good question to ponder. But yeah, it's like if you try to solve this as a selfishness question, it probably won't work because it doesn't seem to be one. Thank you so much for elaborating. Like,
Yeah.
I think this was very insightful, I think.
Mm.
And we're going to have a conversation after this, and we're going to try and repack and think of like what could be done about this. We're probably not going to have any like proper solutions, but we'll have some ideas on like what this means and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah. Ideas. Good word.
Yeah, ideas. At least ideas. So.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a nice day.
You too. Well, that was a little bit of a turn of tides. We started from selfishness and went into the fear of rejection.
Yeah, I think topic changed a lot to trying to connect to people. I was thinking that sometimes people have a very different pace of how they want to develop friendships with others. Like, for example, for myself, I know that I'm very quick. Like, I can meet a person and I would be like, I want to spend now every day with this person. Maybe it's not true. If I would actually spend every day, maybe I would get bored, but I feel like I want to spend every day.
Yeah. And it's tricky because people are different in their ideas of how friendships develop, and we've had discussions about this.
Yeah.
How friendships develop are also very different. Some people are very straightforward and they want to like give themselves fully to other people right in the beginning, and some people are way more like they just take little steps forward and like slowly develop that. Some of the things that we can do is, like I mentioned, just to be very clear with our communication and with our intentions. To try to communicate not just in words but also in emotion of like what I am wanting from you. They know what's going on, so then it's easier for them to react in an honest, open manner if they're comfortable to do that. This is why it's so difficult, because not everybody always is. But, like, it's just interesting because you can be persistent. Well, you can force it to some, but if the other person like agrees to it out of just being agreeable and wanting to get out of the discomfort of saying no, it will backfire.
In psychology, they always say like communication is the key. Not only ask questions, but also maybe communicate her feelings.
And of course, you want to be very honest with yourself and to be ready to admit the fact that, okay, you might have done something that, contributed to this in a negative way. And that, but you got to be very honest that sometimes you just don't know. And if you don't know, that's it. You can find out, but if there's no way of you finding out, then I guess you got to be okay with the fact that you don't know. But you don't want to start telling yourself stories. Let's say someone rejects you and doesn't give you a good enough reason, or doesn't give you a reason at all. Your mind always wants to have an answer to that, especially when something hurts. It's like, well, I want to know why this is like that, because you're trying to get rid of the hurt.
And now I wanted to talk a little bit about the person who is rejecting. And of what I've observed, I believe that it's very important for the person who rejects to actually explain his needs or her needs before they reject. Because sometimes what they actually need, this person might be able to provide, but because this person doesn't understand the needs of that other person
Mm.
rejects them.
Like communicate before you judge. If you are open to the fact that this person might, have a relationship of sorts with you, but you're doubting them, definitely communicate first and let them show. I wanna return really quick to the obscurity thing. Just to point out the fact that even though you don't always have answers, and you accept the fact that you don't know why things went the way they did, the acceptance part is something that's important in being able to bring you that ease as well. But it takes a little practice of you being able to become more tolerant in not knowing. And I think part of the problem is that when we start blaming ourselves, of course we'll feel bad about that. But when we just say that, we don't know why this went this way and there's no way to find out, that doesn't change my self-value. I'm still good. I might hurt right now, but this hurt will go away as I allow myself to heal and then to recover from that.
In the moment, maybe later in life we realize what was the actual problem, but in the moment we come up with something usually very hurtful for ourselves, which actually exactly corresponds with our feelings.
Classic confirmation bias, where you give things an explanation that matches with your own worldview or the view about the thing.
Yeah, don't believe your thoughts.
At least the initial thoughts necessarily.
Yeah.
Be open, but don't judge yourself. Any other thoughts?
They might come.
Yeah. I have so many.
Okay, you can go. Go ahead.
Consider the feelings that you have when you approach other people. If you're coming from a sense of neediness, or if you have this feeling that my life's gonna suck if I don't get to have this connection with this person, quite often people want to take a step back. Versus when you do go out of sheer interest and delight to yourself of like, like I'm actually really interested about this other person, but if they don't want to be around me, I'm quite fine with that. I'll have other people I can entertain myself with. Then people are way more open because now they're free to approach you. And again, what to do if you do feel needy? Well, that's a whole nother conversation we can have another time. But yeah, sure, you probably have some thoughts.
And it's not sometimes your fault or your choice to feel this way. So first of all, don't think of yourself lowly just because you are needy. Well, first of all, I'm an extrovert and I need other people. Otherwise I feel unhealthy, like even physically and especially mentally. So it's needs, but does it mean that you are needy now because you have needs?
Yeah. That's a good distinction. Where like you gotta recognize your needs. You gotta fulfill them, otherwise you'll feel horrible. Needy is more so like you're in the survival mode now. Like the classic situation is where like when someone's in a panic and they're like in the water and they're drowning, someone goes to save them, and what might end up happening is because they're in such need of air and like they just want to survive. What might happen is they push the person who's trying to save you, they push them underwater. But because you're in such a state of panic, you do things that might be uncomfortable or harming to other people, and you're really not thinking about them. You're just thinking about your own survival. Where other people, when you want connection, other people also want it to be reciprocal and not something that it's like, well, I'm coming to you, I want a relationship with you because I'm drowning and I want you to save me from this pain. It's very natural, but is that gonna get you good connections and good friendships? Not necessarily the best strategy for that.
Usually relationships which where you only want to get something, and even if what you want to get is a relationship, they never end up well. They never end up well. Like I remember when I was younger, I would feel very often needy and like really anxiously attached to some people.
Yeah.
But then I would like hide it. Like you would never recognize it if you talk to me. But then I think it's all on a subconscious level. People still feel it, and they would like just feel weird around you and they'll leave. So like nowadays what I do is I still have exactly the same like anxious attachments in my life towards some people, and then what I do is I just go ahead to them and then like and I just explain, I feel this way towards you. Like, I literally check my phone all the time, like, when are you gonna text or something like, and I just explain it, and I make it sure that I understand I didn't choose to feel this way. This
Yeah.
is just how I feel about it, and I try to like overcome it, but it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And I also make sure like to sort of take care of my own emotional needs. Like, and if I feel like it's too hard, sometimes I have to step back myself from those relationships for a time, or ask the person maybe to treat me certain way, like
Yeah.
if they really care for me, so that I can feel better in that relationship, but always keep my mind on what I can do for them to feel they feel good, like, and they
Yeah.
feel that this relationship is meaningful for them.
I think people are pretty good at screening if you're owning your own emotions or not. If you're trying to lean on them for them to treat your emotions, or if you're taking responsibility for them yourself. Like, I don't think we're ever in a situation where we are totally selfless. We help people because it makes us feel good, but you also do it because you realize it makes other people feel good. If you don't care about what the other people feel, that's when it starts causing different strategies and maybe things that aren't necessarily always so suitable and good. Let's dive into a little bit. If you have any more thoughts about this, we can talk about it. But I wanted to dive a little bit more into the stories you tell yourself, because I think this was a really big part of the call, and I think that's really important for everyone to recognize, to be able to challenge those stories. One of the really important things is to do to be able to say that I don't know, and to be okay with that.
Well, you think that, it's because I'm so bad, or no one loves me.
Yeah.
I'm unlovable.
Yeah. But that's also because you don't know what they're feeling. You don't know what's going on. And you know very well what's going on with you. Or at least you think so. So it's always easier to find proof that you're the one to blame, because you're always so much more aware of yourself and so forth. But this may not be. This might not be the reason.
Lately, I've been thinking a lot about I would call it like art of convincing people. Someone who would learn the skill of convincing and understands life really well.
Mm.
In psychology, for example, especially if you communicate with other people, then this person might be able to sort of convince, not force, but like explain so well that another person will agree.
Yeah. I know. I agree with that, and I think that's a very valuable skill to be able to communicate. That's what salespeople do quite well, hopefully. Otherwise, they're not good salespeople. I don't know, but it's true. Skills. When it comes to that, we often, if we don't do something naturally, it's so easy to say, "Oh, I suck at that. That's not something I do." But I've often said this, that, it's, if something doesn't come naturally, like, why wouldn't you want to try and learn it? Like, I think it's so easy for us to feel like we're not enough because we lack skills. But it's more so that we just haven't learned. And then it's like, well, why should I change for other people to accept me as who I am? Because that's the point. Like, I just want people to accept me as who I am. Well, it's like, well, yeah, you don't have to change yourself, but you can learn to manage yourself. You can still be yourself, but you can learn skills to make something happen. And it doesn't change who you are. It just gives you more tools to work with. Exceptions do apply. Sometimes if you have people always talk about toxic relationships.
Like,
I don't like the word.
Yeah, I don't like the word toxic at all, and I feel like it's just a popular trend nowadays on the internet.
That's why I don't like it. And you gotta make a judgment at some point. Sure, you can always be, kind and considerate and, believe in them and so forth, but at some point you run out of resources. This is where you have to be very careful, and you gotta consider of how much is enough for you. When are you wasting your life and your energy and your health and just trying to help someone out? So I think that you need to be very wise about these things. Don't judge too quickly, but I guess you gotta determine your boundaries.
How about we define what love is, like, and does love always mean that you never like lose hope.
Oh gosh, I feel like we were entering another
Yeah.
long conversation on this. Are you really sure you want to have this?
No. So thank you everyone for watching, and if you made it that far, you can consider subscribing to this channel, check more videos, and check his channel, and leave a comment if you had similar situation or if you have some solutions for us and ideas, and we will see you in the next video next week on Tuesday. Bye.
Kaboom. See you later. Scott, just do it. Just do it. No, wait, I went wrong. It's on my old breakdance days. I used to do breakdancing, did you know?
No.
There's people watching, you just like, yeah.
Okay.